President Donald Trump has just launched a new attack against Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Care Act. So now, according to Common Dreams, the Trump administration late Thursday night filed a legal brief asking the Supreme Court to invalidate the entirety of the Affordable Care Act. So the result of that, of course, would be to strip Americans of health insurance. 20 million people in this country. And then it would also cut taxes for the richest Americans, which also would be in the middle of a pandemic. Now, the brief submitted by the Justice Department is in support of a Republican lawsuit. And it argues that since you repealed the individual mandate back in 2017, that the rest of the ACA also needs to be repealed with it, since that, of course, is considered one of the linchpins of the legislation. So now, Solicitor General Noe Francisco says this, quote, "The entire ACA, since that individual mandate is gone, must fall with that individual mandate." So, look, here's the thing. The unmitigated gall, the sheer freaking hubris, right, that it takes to move forward with this lawsuit at a time when tens of millions of people are unemployed. 120,000 Americans have died, with over 2 million infected with a virus. And yet, we're going to move forward to try to eliminate anybody else. Like, I know millions of people have already lost their employer-sponsored insurance. Now, they're going to try to get more people kicked off their employer-sponsored insurance. Ultimate spite. As Jake Johnson points out, the brief comes at a time when millions of Americans are newly uninsured due to the coronavirus pandemic, which caused calamitous job losses nationwide and kicked many people off their employer-provided coverage. Government data released on Thursday shows that nearly 500,000 Americans turned to the federal ACA exchanges in April and May after losing their health insurance due to the COVID-19 crisis. So, of course, if you lose your employer-sponsored insurance, and, COBRA, of course, is 100% unaffordable for many, many people, then, yeah, you're going to try to go to the exchanges to try to get something, especially if you have a pre-existing condition, especially if you have medical issues that you need to be covered. And so what does this do? I mean, obviously, if you eliminate the ACA, then there go the ACA exchanges. Those are gone. It's successful, Johnson points out. The effort by Republican state attorneys general and the Trump administration to tear down the ACA would add an additional 23 million Americans to the ranks of the uninsured and end protections for more than 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. And that, of course, is a monstrous result. Why would you do that? Unless, of course, you hate it when people have health care, or I should say health insurance, be fair about that, and you hate Obama because it was Obama's bill. Now, there's another reason, of course, to that, and that, of course, is tax cuts for the rich. Full repeal of the ACA would deliver massive tax cuts to the richest Americans and big corporations, according to the report released this week by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. The highest income, 0.1%, that's 1 in 1,000 households, will receive tax cuts averaging about $198,000 per year. Households with annual incomes over $1 million would receive tax cuts averaging about $42,000 per year, or again, more than most people's median pay in America. Striking down the ACA would also transfer billions of dollars each year from low and moderate income people who would lose their subsidized health coverage to high income households and corporations, which would receive the largest tax cuts. It is literally redistribution of wealth instead of, it being redistributed from the top to the rest of the country. It would be the opposite, redistributed from lower and middle income to the highest incomes. So, yeah, right to the top. So, look, you guys know I have an issue with the ACA, right? I think the ACA is corporate giveaways, basically, to the health insurance companies. I think we should abolish health insurance companies. Yeah, I went there. And do a single-payer healthcare. 100%. I think this whole drive to, fix and improve the ACA is just a bunch of garbage. We need a Medicare for all system. We already have a great system. It's called Medicare. expand it to everybody. And then with a couple of, modest tweaks, you can make the Medicare system much, much better to where you don't need those supplemental plans anymore. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Get rid of the insurance lobby. And so, as Pramila Jayapal, representative from Washington and co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the lead sponsor for the House version of Medicare for All, said in response, "We need to be guaranteeing health care for all, not gutting it from millions." And she's exactly right, 100%. And look, here's the thing, right? During the primary, we heard a lot about this, right? Where these establishment folks would come out and say, "Oh, we can't do Medicare for all. You're going to kick millions of people off health insurance." People like Neera Tanden would come out and lie about this and say, "Well, I can't believe you want to kick Bernie Sanders wants to kick millions of people off their health care." No, that's not what would happen. Medicare for all wouldn't kick anybody off their health care. It would actually replace it with something better, with better insurance, equivalent to the Cadillac plan, with no premiums, copays, and deductibles, paid for by your taxes. You know how they do it in every other civilized country on earth. Not only that, but it would be guaranteed that if you lose your job, which again, we've got millions of people, tens of millions of people out of work now who have lost their employer-sponsored coverage that would have insurance under a single-payer system, because everybody would have insurance and everybody would have the same quality insurance. And no, I know there are some people out there that absolutely hate that. But look, ending the ACA in this way without a replacement, right? Republicans aren't even concerned about a replacement. I mean, they only put one up because they were kind of expected to. And that, of course, was just like ACA light with high risk pools, basically, like some of the worst ideas that would immediately create basically a death spiral in the markets for people who are, who have pre-existing conditions, who already can't afford their health care, that would be immediately priced out. And so it would be an absolute disaster, an unmitigated disaster, especially for struggling Americans, especially since we're in the middle of a pandemic. In fact, according to the Wall Street Journal, this wouldn't only end coverage for the 11.4 million who signed up for insurance this year, but also halt the expansion of Medicaid that covers more than 12 million people. So insurers would also, again, be able to deny people health coverage or charge higher premiums to consumers with pre-existing conditions. And that, of course, is absolutely monstrous. Can't do that. Can't do that. I mean, look, there are people fighting this, obviously, right? For example, you have California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, member of the coalition of Democratic state attorneys general, fighting the GOP lawsuit that are doing this in court. And he said this, quote, "In the middle of the pandemic, the Trump administration is fighting to destroy the ACA. Tonight before SCOTUS, they showed how far they are willing to go." And of course, what we have here is a conservative Supreme Court. So, look, I don't know how far this challenge is going to go in the Supreme Court. I don't know if John Roberts is going to, again, do the 5-4. We don't know how this is going to turn out. But to do this in the middle of a pandemic is just insane. Now, ahead of the Trump administration's anticipated legal filing, House Democrats on Wednesday introduced their own legislation to bolster the ACA. Unfortunately, they stopped, as of course we expect, well short of progressive calls to expand Medicare to cover people who are uninsured. It's titled the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Enhancement Act, because they're enhancement, right? And they say that it's going to make the ACA more affordable by boosting federal premium subsidies. So basically what they're doing is that they're just going to give health insurance companies more money. And that's it. That's their plan. We'll give corporations more money. We'll give more corporate welfare in order to lower prices. Well, what's going to stop these insurance companies from saying, "Ooh, we're getting more federal money. Well, let's just boost our prices then." I mean, it's literally not going to help whatsoever at all. And so it really is amazing how, in the face of the fact that millions of Americans have lost their health insurance, possibly millions more in the middle of a pandemic, right? That the Democrats are still going with their market approach, right? And not embracing single-payer healthcare. I mean, to be fair, it's the Democratic establishment. The voters have embraced single-payer. People are on board. You see in the primaries, right? Progressives who support Medicare for all are starting to win their races. They're starting to win their primaries against establishment Democrats. And a lot of them are looking like they're going to win their elections in the general. And so they support that policy. The corporate Democrats don't. Not only that, but you have Democratic independent voters that are now in favor of expanding Medicare to everyone. And it's polling even higher than it has before. As more proof comes out that it's the best policy, it's almost as if the pandemic has opened up a lot of people's eyes. I think that we're seeing a sea change here, right? I think we will at some point have Medicare for all. I think we're going to win on this issue. I don't think, maybe not with Biden. Biden himself has said, no, I'll veto it. It costs too much. But maybe afterwards, right? Depending on how long Biden is president. It may be a while, but I think we are going to win on this issue. I think the future is massively progressive. And I think at some point, we will join with the rest of the developed world to ensure that we guarantee healthcare to every man, woman, and child in this country. We have to. At some point, there's really no choice. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.